12 o'clock. Afternoon, everyone, or morning, everyone. So thanks for coming for this lunchtime chat. Yeah, there are still people coming in. But anyway, this session will be recorded, right? It may be some people who need to come on and off. That's fine, right? So the schedule today is pretty packed, right? So we have a few schools as well as AI Singapore will be sharing with us their IT literacy programs and also a student outreach initiative, right? So there's a Q&A document. Let me post in the chat. So because we have quite a number of presenters today. Initially, we planned it to be a 1 hour session, but in the end, it turned out that many people responded. Right, so we had currently estimated 1.5 hour. But in any case, please also feel free to interact with any of the participants, either through the chat or through the Q&A document. Right. Yeah. Okay. So for those who just joined in, welcome. Right. First up, okay. We'll share a little about some of the AI literacy resources available on AI MOE platforms, right? So this is actually also one of the questions asked when people register for this session, right? So currently, the two main MOE platforms will be for teachers, Opel 2, and GovTech actually has put in data primer, and it covers quite interesting topics from data science and also leading to machine learning. And they actually engage some professional producers, like to do this series of data primer. Right? So if you are a teacher and you have access to Opel 2, please have a look. Right, and it looks probably something like okay. So there are a few modules, and you can also start learning, and I think the learning will be tracked. Right. So for the other main content resource that is for both students and teachers, you'll be in SLS, right? And of course, AI Singapore has adapted this their AI for everyone for students, right? So please feel free to access it, right? So there's a shortener, but if you are in SLS, right, and you do a search, right, it's actually one of the first content, right? So we would encourage people to get their students to access this, especially maybe during the school holiday or post-exam period, right? So they did it in I think it was uploaded around 23rd February, and currently we have about 700 plus people who have accessed it. But of course, there are also some other subject curated resources, right? So one is for GP, right? And currently, 600 people access it. And one is under computing for emerging technologies, right? So about 100 plus, right? So there is a lot of room for us to let our students and our schools be aware, right? So apart from that, there are also IMDA has also put in some primary school content, at least from the their Cook for Fun. I think 10-hour compulsory, and there's a component on AI, right? So it's actually quite also professionally done, right? So all these things are hard work put in by the different associations and agencies in collaboration with MOE, right? So of course there are other related resources, right? So please feel free to explore. Okay. Okay, so that is for SLS. But of course we know that a lot of things also happen in AI Singapore, right? So they have actually also recently, actually previously they have a Discord group, right? But they have also created this community, right? And you can actually sign up for any groups for free. You actually have to register as a member first, right? So there's a student AI for a student and AI for kids, right? So currently I think it's pretty new. So the the people may not be that many yet, right? So for example, currently yeah, is
Actually, I can explain more later on this aspect when
okay.
I'm
Thank you.
talking about the AI Singapore side. Yeah.
Yeah, sure, definitely. Yeah, but boss school will be
Mm.
the best person, like to do this.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, so I think I will now hand over to our first presenter. We will first invite presentation from the schools, right? So AI Singapore will be the anchor, right, for the grand finale, right? So first up, we will have according to the schools in alphabetical order, the team from Admiralty Secondary School, right? Yeah. So if when you're ready, please feel free to share your screen, and yeah, we can start.
Hello, everyone. I hope you can see my, can hear me? Can this just test the mic?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Can hear, huh? Very good. Thank you. Okay, I'm Hong Tat, and Mr. Chong, we will be presenting to you together, right? My name is Hong Tat. Okay, so basically we are presenting from the angle of ALP and how the AI come in the picture, and we are looking into basically a fast evolution of how we progress, and then after that what we do or how to move things, right? Okay, so this definition of AI essentially is about how to mimic human behavior and human intelligence, right, to solve a problem. And that's according to Ma and Fujian. Okay, so in 6 branches of the AI, right, we are actually anchoring at the robotics side of AI, right, and that's why we start off with a lot of plans a few years ago from robotics. We are just having a natural anchor on this particular area. Okay. And for those who are not very sure about robotics, we are basically an amalgamation between the mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, electronics, and computer science, essentially to solve problems for the community. And for those, basically, right, if you look at this, these 6 branches of AI is just the academic part of classification. But when it comes to in-depth classifications, right, especially the applied part, right, that's where all the things like with computer visions, NLP, and all these things coming in, right, and then it can be branching into very, very detailed type classification. Okay, so for today, right, I would not go into detail about how the history part of things happening. I will just browse through. So any questions that you have, right, you will just ask me in later in the Q&A. So basically, right, we in terms of structures, right, we actually anchor our programs, right, ALP programs, in terms of the design thinking and the IT side. In this case, right, we are focusing on coding and essentially zooming into the AI for these years onwards. Okay. So in the past, right, these are all the community projects that we are doing. So in terms of structures, right, we have tier 1, tier 2, and in terms of the implementation. Tier 1 is all the school level wide programs for Sec 1 and Tier 2 and Sec 2. Okay, so the difference between these two, right? They are just about they are just about use of iPad. Right, Sec 2 basically use iPad to control circuits, and then Tier 1, right, basically you use environment to trigger a response from the circuits. So basically circuits, it means our Arduino circuits. So we are having Arduino programs, and that's where we gradually morph ourselves towards the AI of stuff. So these are the two what we call controller that we are using. And essentially, right, we are very into Arduino before 2021. And then our Sec 1 batch last year was the last batch to be on Arduino for, that means they are Sec 2 right now, they're still on Arduino. Right, and some of the we are actually having a differentiated approach. Some of the students will be on microbit, right? And then over here, the purpose is actually the robotics part of things, what we call robotics automation. So basically, the students are expected to code and then control circuits or responses of circuit using motor, LED, buzzer, and devices like this. Okay, so these are typical circuits in a typical lessons, right? So these circuits, right, will appear in Sec 1 and Sec 2 of the curriculum, right? And then the only difference here is that in Sec 2, right, students are expected to control this whole circuit using iPad from remote. So it's a remote control type of things, okay? Using Bluetooth signals. Then, so they are expected to connect circuits and then code them. Right, so they will run. We also, as part of the development, they have to code in the. They have to do some coding, but actually it's a lot of reference coding, and then after that, they get the circuit working. Okay, so we teach them the structures of codes. In this case, right, we are on C++, and our current Sec 2 has been on C++. In fact, all the students in the past 5 years have been on C++ for at least 2 years. Okay. We know that while we are doing automation and things along the AI and robotics, right, the human part, the human touch will be missing. So that's why we put design thinking in place, right, to guide them first to think and second to empathize. So the human part of empathy has been introduced together with our curriculum to them. Right. So as I said, over here the difference between them, the Sec 1 and Sec 2 curriculum, but the main part, right, is the word iPad. Right. Sec 1 is environment triggered. For example, brightness. Brightness will trigger your LED to turn on, your light to turn on or turn off. But in the Sec 2 curriculum, right, is the iPad that will control your LED to turn on, the off through the Arduino circuits. They're all using Arduino circuits. Right. So you can see from here, we so far, right, our curriculum, right, has been focusing on both microcontroller, which is Arduino, and these microbits, right, together with quite heavy emphasis on coding. And it is because precisely on this coding, right, that the basis on the basic skills in the coding, right, that our students can move towards the AI part of the analysis easier, I would say. Okay, so for our Tier 2, right, they are given the freer response to design what they want, and they are typically the Sec 3 students. So they are selected, and because they have skills on how to code and how to build circuits in the past, they are given the free time to sit down and design what they want to serve a community purposes. Right, and although they are level wide, they are selected. Okay, but for Sec 1, Sec 2, right, they are all level wide compulsory program timetable into the timetable, and that's what happened in the past. Okay, so all these are the community outreach before COVID. Okay, so right now for the Sec 3, right, last year we start to embark on some AI, very small selected teams on AI projects. So in AI, right, there's these two terms in terms of AI modeling. The first one is transferable learning model, and the other one is specialized model. Well, in our context, right, transferable learning means anything that they can customize. The predefined model means you can just use a model and identify and let the AI routine or AI programs, right, do the task. So our students basically we have a task for them, and we want them to look into the transferable learning model. Okay, in this particular case, right, computer vision task is actually easy to anchor. These are some of the terminologies that we use for the computer vision task in AI. So examples, they're looking at a cat, they are supposed to be able to identify a cat. So first, identify a cat. After that, they must detect and differentiate between the cat and the dog, and that's some process called detections. Identify a cat is a process called classification and localization. And then after that, must be able to segment. All this, right, something that the students will go through as a process to train the system through something called the transferable learning model. So basically, so let me share a work from them.
Teachers and students.
I understand that the sum might be solved, but this is the maximum I can project.
So what is the Fumika application and product will help to detect food conditions and send reminders to consumers so as not to miss food.
That's right. Let me show you. You can see here we have two foods in test today, which is the apple and the banana. This represents the conditions of the foods. It's fresh, moderate, rotten, same as for banana. It's fresh, moderate, and rotten. Now let's show. You can see our product is hooked up to the computer, so it can show you what's detecting right now. Now let's move on to our app. Firstly, make sure your Bluetooth is on. Now to connect to the Bluetooth, press the button. And as you can see from the product, when it's be successfully connected to Bluetooth, it will be lighting your laptop. And for the fridge lights, there you can see there's like a faint brightness in the back. I press on and off. Now to enter, we can press the fridge button. As you can see, there is the apple and the banana. You can add foods, you can delete foods also. So, but when we add the foods, you can see that there is an expiry date that pops up. You can also remove and add. You can see demo. Now time for food samples. As you can see here, the product, there's nothing here. That's for the processor, nothing. Now let's move on to apple. Fresh apple, please.
Fresh apple.
Fresh apple. Over here, it says that there's a fresh apple. As you can see from the screen also, it does sense that it's what the PC is seeing it. Now for our moderate apple.
Moderate apple.
For our moderate apple, you can see that there is a sound. You can see that there is a sound that's happening right now. And it will send reminders to us too. You can see it's vibrating and there is also sound as a reminder. Now to our water one.
Water. Yeah.
You should say water apple, and they will also do the same thing, vibrate and make a sound as a reminder. Now moving on to our banana.
Fresh banana.
Fresh banana it is. You can see it shows there's a fresh banana. The thumbs up. Now time for our.
Now this is our moderate banana.
You can see it shows the moderate banana and also the same as the apple will vibrate and also have a sound to be a reminder. For water one.
Water. You.
It does the same. You can see walking banana. Now on to our notifications. As you can see, there is nothing. There is no notification since there is no foods that needs to be disposed soon. So there is nothing. But however, if there is, for example, a water banana, it will show that there is a notification, sound, vibration, that water food is detected. For our moderate, it also does the same thing. Moderate is detected, and there will be a reminder and vibration also to remind you to eat it soon. But if it does set a fresh one, it won't have any reminders, so it will only be for moderate and water. Same goes to the apple. Apple, no notification. Moderate apple. There'll be one notification. You see. For water one, there's also water detected. So it does work. So it is for the apple and banana. And now we turn that on. So that is all for our Fuminder app and the product.
Thank you for your kind attention for listening to our group. Please vote for us.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Star. Teachers. And star. Teacher.
So from what you can see here, they actually in this whole process, they actually learn to how to do detections, classifications, localization, and by applying the transferable learning model, right? And then we also what differentiate our AI projects from the rest probably is that they use a fair bit of hardware together with software, mobile devices, and then on top of whatever coding mechanism that support. Right, so in this case, we embark on C++ as well, right? And this team actually is a winning team for us in the MOE Innovation Program. They won the distinction for last year's. Okay, so we also have programs where students opt in and then they participated in AI Win Petition. This is actually a very interesting program whereby they spend weeks of lessons and teach students. Last year, I think they spent 1 week, but the whole package itself actually spent more than 1 week. During the June holiday time, they actually have training students about how coding works and how AI works, right? So we actually sent some of them there, and then these are some of our students managed to win some of these projects. But the whole point here is that the students are managed to code. That's the whole point. And these are different group of students from the rest. Okay, so last year we are quite fortunate to have some students who are also being honored in this Women 100 Women in Tech honorees lah. So over here, Christy is one of them, and then we also have Charlene. So we have President Halimah Yaakob. We are congratulating them, and so also as well as ministers congratulating them. Right, those honorees. So basically, right, in there, what I look at the reflections, right, basically they actually mentioned AI is something that actually impact them, right, and worth to note that is that you can see a lot of female students get excited over coding as well, right. So this is another platform whereby we organize competition for as a part of the tier 2. We organize competitions for Singapore primary school and secondary school in the past. Called NRPC. For them to apply their learning. So for now, right, I will pass my presentation to Mr. Coleman Chong, right, my colleague, right, and he will continue from there, right. Yeah, Coleman, please.
Okay, moving forward, so as what Hong Tat actually mentioned, okay, so we actually plan quite a fair bit in our Sec 1 and Sec 2. But of course, we also need to look at the current trend of the society and the theme that we actually embark on. So what we do is that we actually did a SWOT analysis at the end of the year. So we take into consideration that since our school is actually embarked on the emerging technology, so we are looking for technology which is of the current trend and the upcoming trend. Okay, so this is one main consideration. So the other consideration is also that we actually have a full SBB classes started this year. Okay, so our Sec 1 classes are all heterogeneous. Okay, so they consist of express, normal acad, normal tech. Sorry, previous slide. Okay. Yeah, so the full SBB. So they are actually heterogeneous class. So our ALP lesson will need to cater to all these students as well. So we are looking for technology which is simple enough for the students to embark on, and also for us to upskill it when there's a need. So that's why we actually choose a microbit this year, okay, which has a text-based and a block-based, and microbit also has more universal connection to all to the rest of the sensor that we actually bought earlier on. Okay, so of course the third thing that we have is our current trend of the society. So as much as possible, when we plan our curriculum for Sec 1 and 2, we actually try to contextualize our theme, okay, to be more relevant to the society, so that the students, when they are doing the project, they can find meaning in the projects that in the projects that they are designing. Okay, so we actually based on all these main consideration, and we try to align our program according to the 3 themes. Okay, next please. Okay, so the first the first tier, as mentioned by Hong Tat, okay, the first tier is for Sec 1 and Sec 2. Okay, so you can look from the slide. So we try to, for Sec 1, we try to let them experience different type of technology. So they embark on this experiential learning. So they went to learning journey. They experience a certain type of different type of technology. Okay, so that they are equipped with all the knowledge of the programming, as well as how does a robot works. Okay, together with the rest of the sensor. Okay, so therefore Sec 2, we try to modify such that it is more of a service learning. So we try to situate the learning within a very authentic environment. Okay, so and at the same time, we also want to infuse AI into their learning as well. So for tier 2, so for tier 2, so after they finish the Sec 1 and Sec 2, so for tier 2, so we empower them to do more collaboration in terms of collaborative work with community, and as well as they get more involved in STEM, emerging technology, and so on and so forth. Okay, so for tier 2 is more of empowerment. Okay, next slide. Okay, so this is our Sec 1 and 2, what they learn. Okay, so the Sec 1, they'll learn about basic programming, construction of robots, okay, which is very important. Okay, so, and they also need to apply various sensors in the various situation, okay, according to our thematic approach. So for every lesson, we actually have some theme for them to embark on. So let's say, for example, if they want to design something to guide the visually impaired elderly, so they will use a robot as well as the ultrasonic sensor in this project. So for every lesson, they actually have this theme for them to follow. Okay, so for Sec 2, then they will learn more about programming, a deeper understanding of programming, especially for text-based programming. So they will also infuse AI into the curriculum, okay, which they will program the AI to do things like number and color recognition, the line follower, and etc. So they will do all these things in a very authentic environment. Okay, so then they will start to learn about some AI concept like robotics, fuzzy logic, all these things. Next. Next, please. Okay, so when come to tier 2, this is for the selected students. So we actually have identified some students that really have the attitude and the aptitude. Okay, so we actually embark on this AI for Youth program. Okay, so which is quite a long process and require the commitment from the students. Okay, but our students, they already have some exposure, so they know what to expect from this program. Okay, so they're exposed in these 3 AI domains: the computer vision, natural language, and as well as the statistical data. So at the end of the project, they are supposed to showcase an AI-enabled project. So we are still doing this. Okay, this is the first year that we actually starting. Okay, so yeah, so I think later the Intel will talk more about this. Okay, next, please. Next slide. Okay, so these are the partners that we actually work with throughout the years. So we work with Nanyang Poly, STEM Inc., okay, Apple and Intel. So they are very valuable partners, okay, together with us. And of course, we also hope that we actually can continue to work with Woodlands Care Home, okay, which our learning journey has been suspended for the past 2 years. Okay, so we hope that we can actually continue with that. All right. We come to the end of our presentation. Okay, so we would like to open this session for any Q&A from the audience. Is there any? Feel free to type on the chat box.
Hi, Piaw from Montfort Secondary. Very interesting project you have, especially with regards to the computer vision part. Just wondering how the students implemented it. I know that you use Arduino and certain app platforms. So is the AI model pre-trained, or did the students have to train the AI model themselves? Thanks.
Okay. Okay. Basically for this model, right? We actually get the students to train. Give me a moment, I submit through.
Mr. Chung, we cannot hear you clearly because you have one of your, yeah.
Okay, sorry, some technical issue here. Okay, basically for this model, right, the student train AI. That's why I say it's a transversal learning models. They train on how to recognize the different objects, and basically we are using this webcam called Pixie from Carnegie Mellon Universities, right? And so after they train, the rest are coding work. And then for the apps that you are using, we are using App Inventor for MIT, right? So and then the coding mode is actually the sketch coding from Arduino lah.
Okay, thanks. I think there's a Q&A under the chat. Actually, there are two. Okay, but actually, in view of time, we may not be able to answer too many questions. Can I suggest that we can defer some of these questions? If there's time at the end, we can answer them live. If not, we will be doing it in the Q&A document. Right? Otherwise, this may run until quite late. Yeah. So thanks very much, Admiralty, for sharing. The next school that we have will be from Anglican High School. Yeah. So we have Mr. Patrick Day that will be sharing with us the IT literacy program. Yeah, thanks.
All right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. My name is Patrick. I'm happy to be here to share about AI in my school. All right. So now, so the scope of my sharing, basically, I'll introduce to you what is this AHS Creators Program all about. All right. This is actually the anchor program which my school has for AI literacy. All right. So I will also touch on a little bit about the learning outcomes that we have, as well as the AI curriculum in Anglican High School, how it is like and what is it for the structure, so on and so forth. I will also include a slide on how we evaluate the effectiveness and before we conclude. All right. Now, I think first thing we got to admit is that we are relatively new to this. All right. In fact, we embarked on this AI literacy only in 2021. In fact, we started our first batch in June 2021. All right. So we are still taking baby steps, and actually I'm here to learn from all the gurus as well. Okay. Now, so without further delay, let's move on now. So maybe just a little bit of background information. All right. So my school's vision is as such. All right. We are trying to nurture every student to be a leader, leading honorably, learning for life, as well as creating value for others. Now, so in line with this, we came up with our ICT vision as well as our outcome goals. All right. I shall not bore you with this, but basically we are trying to it's a strategic plan in a sense that everything is structured because we do understand that structure drives behaviors. All right. So with the outcome goals as such, we have two enablers. All right. And we term it very simply just enabler 1, that's learning technology, and enabler 2, learning with technology. All right. So our creators program, where the AI curriculum is under, falls under this learning technology enabler. All right, and then well, that's for completeness, enabler 2. All right, so let me touch on a little bit more about the creators program that we have in Anglican High School. All right, so this is actually a 3-year integrated program where we hope that every child that goes through our school gates will minimally cover 50 hours of computational as well as design thinking, all right, during their secondary school journey in Anglican High. So I think quite similar to Admiralty Sec, we have design thinking, computational thinking under the creators program. But what is unique in a sense that we actually have an AI curriculum parked under it specifically for AI as well. All right, so this is just a overview of how and what the AHS Creators Program is like over the 3 years. I will not cover too much on the computational thinking as well as the design thinking portion, but I'll just zoom in directly into the AI curriculum that we have. All right, so as you can see, basically our AI is more targeted at lower secondary school students in Anglican High School. So we started off by introducing them to Python coding. All right, and then we will also introduce AI Volume 1. We work with a vendor for this. And then when they get to Sec 2, we'll progressively move on to AI Volume 2. All right, so hoping that with this as a foundation in their lower secondary, some of the Sec 2 students will feel encouraged and confident enough to undertake computing at O level, which we intend to start in 2023. All right, now, so that's the Trafficus model, all right? Basically, so the AI curriculum is meant for all lower secondary school students, all right, all secondary school students, lower secondary students as a form of green harvesting. So we do have a AI-based activities for the student-initiated learning, okay, which quite a number of them have been taking up, all right, and then by the time they get to Sec 3 a class, we're looking at about a class of them taking GCE O-level computing, and out of this some, we are hoping that, well, at least we can send a few to AI-related competitions, both local and overseas when the situation permits. All right. Okay. Now, so what are the learning outcomes that we aim to have for our AI curriculum? Well, we do hope that the students understand and learn all the different applications and outcomes that can be achieved by leveraging on AI. We want to develop students into future-ready learners that can create value for others. And as I've mentioned just now, it's actually a green harvesting for computer studies that we are offering at Upper Sec in 2023. Okay, now, so these are some of the topics that we cover in our own AI curriculum in Anglican High School. Well, first and foremost, they do learn things like, how do they operate a virtual car. The topics will include things like, how they function, how they do some form of movement. Later, I'll show you an example of a student artifact that was done under this topic. All right, other topics will include things like image processing, machine learning, and also deep learning, so on and so forth. All right, so it may be of interest to you for me to share a little bit more about this AI curriculum. So we have it timetable. All right, so the kids have it in their timetable. 2 periods of 35 minutes a week. We have one designated teacher who has been trained to actually take charge of the classes. All right, so we do work with a vendor. So it's a vendor-based kind of subscription platform which they use. And yeah, as I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, we started in June 2021. All right. Okay, so these are just some examples of student artifacts. I will touch on. I'll just show you an example done by the kids. All right. The first example is programming a virtual car. All right. So this was what they did. Right, so for the programming of the virtual car, the kids actually tried to use Python coding. All right, so they code and then they will program and the car in such a way that in whichever movement that they would like to have. All right, another example that I can show you is using facial key point recognition. All right, so that's what they did. Okay, so these are just two examples of student artifacts that I'm showing you. All right. So maybe just let me quickly touch on the evaluation and the review part. Well, as I shared at the beginning of this presentation, we are pretty new to this area. So we are trying to review and evaluate in terms of how effective the curriculum is. So I'll say it's a four-pronged approach in that sense. We have the review led by our own school leaders. So the school leaders will look at the curriculum content, how adequate it is, the time and duration of the lesson, the deployment of teachers, all right, as well as timetabling requirements. On my end, as a head of department for ICT, which oversees this AI curriculum, I will also monitor and review this program under the entire umbrella of Creators program. Teachers themselves, all right, the teachers who are conducting this AI curriculum, they will also do a review on their end to look at how appropriate the curriculum content will be, the pedagogy. In fact, they will also give feedback about the AI portal that we have from the vendor, as well as the duration of the AI lessons and assessment. Okay, the students themselves, they will also complete a perception survey. Okay, so maybe I'll just quickly share with you some of the results that we have collected from the kids. So generally, I would say that they do like the AI curriculum pretty much. Okay, so it at least helps them to improve their awareness of AI. So in particular about the virtual car programming module as well as image processing. All right, so I would say generally the perception survey results are pretty positive. And as I've mentioned before, we are trying to use this as a platform for us to identify potential students taking computing at Sec 3. So we are looking at about a class, about 20 to 25 students maximum. So I would say that so far the results are pretty encouraging in a sense. All right. Okay. So very quickly, I'll conclude now. So with the increased emphasis on computational thinking, I think we are hoping that this AI curriculum that we have in Anglican High School, it helps to expose students to the different affordances of AI as well as its application. Well, we do hope that with this exposure, it enables the students to be more future ready so that they can create value for others. All right. So with that, I end my presentation, and I mean, if time permits, I welcome any questions that you have. Thank you very much.
Oh, yes. Thanks very much, Mr. Patrick. Can we have maybe one question to be answered live? If there's anyone apart from, Boss Wong asked whether Anglican is using the SenseTime platform. I believe so. Yeah. But apart from this, are there any other questions for Anglican High? If not, please feel free to raise them in Q&A if you think of them, right? So thanks very much, Mr. Patrick. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yep.
Yeah. So next up, we will have a presentation from Dunman High from Mr. Terence Go, right?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I think my camera is taking some time. Give me a moment.
Yes, we can see you now.
Okay, can. Let me open my slides. Okay, can you see my slides?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Hello, everybody. I'm Terence from Dunman High. I'm a junior high computing teacher. So in Dunman High, actually, there's Sec 1 to JC 2 because it's IP school. So we call the Sec 1 to Sec 4 junior high and the JC 1 and JC 2 senior high. Yeah, so I mainly teach the lower, the secondary school side. Yeah, so in year 1 and year 2, actually, they have a curriculum time for computing. But actually, it's not that much. We only have lessons once every 2 weeks, 1 hour plus. So it's not much time. And in year 1, actually, we try to focus more on the programming fundamentals because last year when I tried teaching last year I was teaching my first year. So when I teach the machine learning to the year 2s, I realized a lot of them, they are stumbled by the syntax and understanding of Python itself. So the understanding of programming fundamentals is important. If not, when they go on to the machine learning portion, a lot of them get a bit confused by the Python programming itself. Yeah, so for year one, we try to focus more on things like variables, if-else, loops, functions, and we use the platform Tankable. And for this year, we are changing to M5 Go as well instead of microbit. Yeah, so for these two, we use mainly block-based programming. Reason because most primary school students already have some exposure to Scratch. So we thought that this might be a good, easier transition for them. And we try to introduce flowcharts as well. They don't need to know how to create a flowchart, but we teach them how to read and understand flowcharts. Reason being, usually it's a lot easier to explain the code using flowchart as compared to just looking at the code itself. Yeah, so that's what we do mainly in year one. And for year two, we actually transit them over to text-based programming from block-based programming. Yeah, so we try to build on their foundation in Python. We actually make use quite a bit on data cam. We managed to get accounts from AI Singapore. So every student Sec 2 student actually have data cam, and we get them to complete the introduction to Python and intermediate Python courses on data cam. Yeah, on top of that, the teachers also try to explain certain concepts because it can be a bit challenging for certain parts. Yeah, and so after the first half of the year where they sort of build their foundation on Python, then we start to move on to machine learning. So we also kickstart the machine learning portion with the machine learning for everyone course in DataCamp. So that's where they start to learn about the different types of machine learning. So if you look at the top over here, they come to realize that actually there's three main types: supervised learning, unsupervised learning, and reinforcement learning. But we just focus on supervised, unsupervised. And that each category have a subcategory in a sense. Like your classification regression is supervised, and your clustering, anomaly detection and association is unsupervised. Yeah. And also another important thing that we try to get them to understand from a high level point of view is the process of machine learning. So we actually get them to understand that you first need to extract features, you need to split into a training and testing data set, how you train the model, and then later you evaluate whether the model is good or not. But at Sec 2 level, we only ask them to evaluate the accuracy, how many correct predictions the trained machine learning model made. Yeah, and so how we actually do coding with them in Python using Google Colab, because in Dunman we actually use quite a lot of Google Classroom, and using Google Colab actually help us to sort of make it easier for us to set assignments and also to collaborate assignments. Yeah, so one thing that we did to sort of, because even though the students are somewhat familiar with Python, they are still quite new to AI and machine learning. So we actually come up with templates where we actually give them a step-by-step. We break down the code into, I think, 8 to 9 steps for them to follow through. And we try to link the 8 to 9 steps to the steps given by the data cam process for machine learning over here. Yeah, so that at least they can follow through even when they're doing the coding. They don't get lost in the coding, but they actually understand that, what I'm doing here is actually splitting the data set, or what I'm doing here is actually training the data set. So it's to help them to be able to see the entire flow, but at the same time also understand what the granular code. Yeah, so that's what we do for year 2s. We did mainly only 2 coding exercises with them. One is on the iris classification to basically to classify flowers based on the measurements of the flowers, and also recognizing handwriting digits 0 to 9. Yeah, so this is what we did for year 2. So for year 1 and year 2, actually, it is for all students, the whole school population will have to go through computing. Yeah, so they actually have this foundation. When we go to year 3, actually year 3 students they don't have computing lesson anymore. But we have something called elective modules. So for Sec 1, Sec 2, Sec 3, actually they can have elective modules that is non-academic in nature. And the topics for the elective modules really range quite broadly. It's a really a big range of possible elective modules. And the only module that we have that is related to AI is AI Plus, which actually currently is being taught by myself and Mr. Gee. And these are for year 3 students who choose to take up this elective module. So we have lessons 2 hours per week, but this is after school timetable. Yeah. So the class size is a lot smaller. this year we only have 10 students. And but the thing is that because they choose this elective module, the belief is that they are more interested in AI, in programming. Yeah, so they will put in a bit more effort as compared to just the general standard student population. Yeah, so in year 3, we actually go more in depth to build on top of the foundation that we gave in year 1 and year 2. So things like in year 2, actually when they did machine learning, the data set that we give them is very clean. So there's no missing data, there's no any odd data, and everything is just numeric, right? Because it's easy. Yeah. So in year 3, we try to expose them to a bit of pre-processing. So things like the idea of one-hot encoding, why is it necessary, and even other things like in year 2, we actually only teach them accuracy based on the number of accurate predictions. But we know that sometimes that's not good enough, not a good enough gauge on whether machine learning is well trained or not. So we introduce to them things like confusion matrix, sensitivity, specificity. How do you see whether a machine is predicting true positives well or true negatives well enough? Yeah, to have a more in-depth evaluation of the trained machine learning model. And we also explain to them that you can actually tune the hyperparameter a bit more, so they have different results with your algorithm, your machine learning algorithm. Yeah, and how you actually use cross-validation in your codes to actually find out what's the best hyperparameter for that particular algorithm, for that particular data set. Yeah, so but mostly we are still focusing on, seems to be focusing on supervised learning, but for the year 3, we try to move a bit more into the unsupervised learning. So far, we have taught them, we've gone through one exercise with them on K-means clustering. So there's a hope that they don't just have a fixed idea of what machine learning really is, and we try to expose them a bit more. The reason why we only focus on supervised learning in year 2 is because lack of time mostly. And so that with the year 3, we try to expose them a bit more. Yeah. So in general, that is the sort of the program that we have for year 1, year 2, and year 3 at the moment for AI related. Yeah. That's all. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much, Bosco. Any questions? We can take one for Dunman High School. Otherwise, we can also do it in the chat. And so after that, our next speaker will be from Hwa Chong Institution, Miss or Madam Qian. Yes. Yeah, we can see your slide. Is your audio okay?
Oh, sorry.
Okay, thanks.
Press the wrong button.
Yeah, I'll do it now.
Yeah, I haven't do Google Meet for a while. Okay. So we are meaning. Sorry, I think I skipped the first slide just now. I'm Yu Qian from Hwa Chong's college side. I would like to share with everyone how we start with and moving on, learning how we build up a program, not just only on artificial intelligence. I think we also explore other areas. Okay. So at the college side, we have students coming from different schools, and we still need to handle H2 computing. So I'm actually more sharing on how we structure the program, because all those technical stuff we are still learning, and mainly is run by external partners. Okay, so for us, where is it coming from? This program is mainly when we have a increasing number of students want to take H2 computing, and we realize actually in terms of their ability, and also how they are so passionate about computing, and also about going uni for this area. And then also we know that for some students, just the subject H2 computing or the CCA Infocom is not enough for them. They want to know more. They want to explore more. And although we have also have other resources in school, we want to make it more structured for this group of students. And also we know that recently the uni application for either computer science, computer engineer, whether it's local or overseas, is very hot right now. So it's not just to give them a portfolio. I think more important is for students to have more experience in such areas so they know where they are looking forward to. And also for some students, they are very passionate and we want them to have a taste before they step into a 4-year education just knowing nothing. If they experience something in JC and some of them may not find this is what they want to pursue. I think it's a good thing to let them know early rather than everyone rush into the uni. Okay, so for us, it's mainly things are mainly happening in JC1. So once they get into JC1, we have a selection test. We target at about 1 class size, and everyone must take H2 computing regardless of whether they have past experience in coding or in AI. Some of them have actually our high school also have some AI program. I think quite similar to the previous sharing the previous schools has been sharing at Sec 1 all the way to Sec 4. But I won't be sharing about that because I'm not having the detail of that. But we do have students with quite very good knowledge, I would say, when it comes to JC. But we also have students with zero background. We don't want them to be left out. So we still want them to take the subject, make sure they are learning the basics from the subject, and also they can build from there for AI and other stuff. Okay. And so for the curriculum wise, we are actually focusing on 3 areas right now. I think these are the hot ones. AI, I think AI one is it's quite widely applicable in all the sciences. Is quite we can find enough resources for them. And another one is data analytics, which we find it might be relatively easier for those who start from the beginning compared to AI and cybersecurity. And then, of course, cybersecurity is very important now in this world, especially when not only just the physical war, but virtual war is also ongoing. And we would like to get students to know more about this part, and maybe some of them can be our guardians of the nations in government agency or even in private sectors. So we try to structure our content in these 3 areas, and then what the student must do is every week in the JC1 timetable, we put in a 2-hour session. And this is the enrichment workshop, which we invite external parties to help us conduct the lessons for these 3 areas. And yeah, so that's why I'm not sharing too much about the technical part. So for JC1, they have this in their timetable, but JC2, we still need to prepare them for the GCA level. So JC2 is more ad hoc sessions whenever we find a suitable timing, and for JC2 is more about their career planning, okay, the university planning. So it's more ad hoc. JC1, they can still afford a 2-hour per week to explore things outside the syllabus. And then we also embark on a group project for every student in one focus area. We are quite fortunate that for JC level, there's quite a lot of research project supported by unis. So that's where our main resources are coming from. And then we also plan to have immersion trip to uni or government sectors or private sectors during school holidays. We start the program last year, but because of COVID, so in terms of the trip, it's all kind of suspended because of the safety measurement and all this. And we also have connections overseas. We hope that once the COVID is over, we can bring them to see more stuff outside the school. Okay. Yeah. So last year, last year we started the first batch, and at the end of the year we gather student feedback. I think the good thing is they enjoy the hands-on experience. From our experience, the three topics, AI, data analytics, and cybersecurity, it seems like cybersecurity workshop is the most exciting one, because it's kind of, they like the design of hacking game, or I think for cybersecurity, there's always the red and blue, the defense, and the attack team is kind of a gamification. And because AI and data analytics workshops is more about intro, then they because of the time constraint, I think there's not enough time for them to really have a proper project to come out during the workshop, and it's more about research rather than gamification. And then another thing student like is they get to know student each other if they are interested in same area. And for those who start from the beginning, they like the workshops in the sense that they get to know the hottest topics, have a little taste of the emerging technology. Okay, but also we have challenge in the design of the workshop, and also in the group project, is that for the workshop, because for example for the AI workshop last year we have I think at least 6 or 7, but it's like every speaker will start from history of AI and what. So student was for those who have known a bit or know the basics, they find it not challenging enough because 1 session, 2 session haven't go into the depths. But for the newbies who just started with the subject H2 computing to learn coding, and also they don't know much about cybersecurity, when they play those games, they find it very challenging. They don't know where to look for the resources, what does the code mean, and they don't know the terms. So we although we call it talent program, we are not just select those with experience. We still have students who start from scratch. So it also gives us challenge, because as teachers, we are also learning about this AI and cybersecurity, so that at least we know what's going on in the program. But I think it takes some time for us and external parties to understand student levels and set at the suitable level that's comfortable for both sides, both spectrum of the student. And then for the group project, some groups do find the expectation from the mentors a bit high, and they are very although JC student, but for some of them to start working on a research without little help is still challenging. So we are still working on with the uni mentors and other parties, so that we can make it more suitable level for the student. Okay, so I think that's about how we started to learn to build the blocks for the student, so that they can have a more exciting experience in JC, whether it's new or whether it's bring them to another level. Okay, so yeah, that's all from me. If I think I will take from question from here.
Thanks so much, Miss Yu. Is there any question for Hwa Chong Institution? So she's currently in charge of the JC side. They have a secondary school side, right? So
yeah.
So hopefully there's some future opportunity we also get to learn from them, right? So yeah. So anyway, Missy is a new mother. Yeah. So thanks for taking time during this babysitting period, right? To share with us, right? So if not, if the rest have questions, please feel free to do it in the Q&A doc or in the chat. Our next speaker is actually also child sitting at this time. So we are next having NUSI, Miss Phylliscia Chu. So she has actually prepared a recording. It's about 5 minutes, right? So we will hear from her sharing the AI literacy program from NUSI.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Phylliscia from NUS High School of Math and Science. I'm here to give you an overview of the AI literacy program in NUS High School. Before I begin, let me give you a short background of my school. NUS High is a specialized independent high school in Singapore offering a 6 years integrated program leading to the NUS High School diploma. Our curriculum is based on a modular system similar to NUS. NUS High offers a 6 years computer science curriculum, focusing on the study of problem-solving and algorithms in the foundation years and the diverse application of computer science in the specialization years. In the foundation years, all Year 1 students will have to take a compulsory CS module titled Computational Thinking. The module aims to give students an overview of what the study of CS is about and focuses on problem solving, principles of programming, and basic data analysis skills. In Year 2 Semester 1, interested students may then continue to take CS as an elective, where they will build a firm foundation in programming using Python as the programming language. In the subsequent semester, students have a choice to take a range of CS programs depending on their interests. So one of the enrichment programs is Basic Introduction to AI. This program is also titled AI for Youth Program in partnership with Intel and IMDA. So this is actually run by an external vendor. The AI for Youth program aims to expose students to the exciting field of AI through computer vision. Students are first introduced to the broad applications of AI in real life. They will then learn to apply Python programming for basic data science tasks. Finally, they will apply concepts learned through a final group project. This is an example of the students' final project, where they use computer science vision technique taught to analyze photos. Nice pictures with relevance to user will be pushed to the user, with an aim that it could entice user to buy the product. In Year 4, students passionate about computer science will choose to major in computer science. They will get to go deeper into AI by first taking the Year 4 Semester 2 module titled Data Analytics. In the following semester, they will then take the module Introduction to AI. Finally, students very interested in AI and machine learning may opt to take research project or internships related to AI or machine learning in Year 5 or Year 6. In the Data Analytics module, students will learn foundational skills in data analytics, where they will go through the data life cycles from data wrangling to exploration to modeling and finally to visualization. They will get to learn scientific computer libraries such as NumPy and Pandas, visualization libraries such as Matplotlib, Seaborn, and Plotly, and algorithmic libraries such as scikit-learn, where they will do simple, basic modeling such as linear regression. In the module, students will get to apply the concepts learned through a final module project. So this is an example of a module project from a student, where the student investigate the relationship between Google Trends and illness statistics. The Year 5 Introduction to AI module will provide students with an overview and understanding of modern applications in AI and machine learning. In this module, we tap on resources offered by AI Singapore for educators. Certain AI and machine learning data camp courses are assigned to students to support their learning journey along the way. This also helps to promote independent and self-directed learning in the student. Once again, students will get to apply the concepts learned through a final module project. For educators that is new to AI and machine learning, you might be wondering where to learn from. So these are some resources that will be useful. in AI Singapore, they offered this AI for Educators program, which is in partnership with DataCamp. So DataCamp itself, there are also a lot of AI and machine learning courses. The other two MOOCs that is very useful that you might be interested in would be Coursera and EDX, which also has a wide range of AI and machine learning courses offered by various Institute of Higher Learning. So that is all for my sharing. Thank you.
Mr. Gee, am I up next?
Oh, so sorry. Montfort is next. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, hold on. I'm doing the share of the screen now. Window, right. Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, we are. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. So the applied learning program in Montfort is called in Montfort. So today's presentation will be based on our AI literacy efforts in Montfort Secondary. So I'm currently the coordinator for the ALP program, the Maker Club CCA, and also the O-level computing subject. So based on being in the confluence of these three areas, actually allows me to work on pretty interesting projects in my school. My current project is I think that there's a recent push about data camp champion bootcamp to MOE educators, so I'm waiting for that to start. At the same time, I'm trying to implement a spaghetti remote detection program on 3D printers because of this problem in my makerspace. So if anyone has this solution to this, let me know. Today's content will be basically we'll give you a quick overview of the ALP program in Montfort and an update about the second iteration of my cloud AI module, the highlights and pitfalls, and some reflection for future plans. In Montfort, right, basically we have a applied learning program for one semester across the lower secondary schools. Lower secondary levels, Sec 1, Sec 2. Besides that, right, we also offer O-level computing at Sec 3 and 4 levels. So I think part of the intended outcomes for ALP is to identify students who are interested in O-level computing. And to do that, we will need to introduce the students in ALP to a lot of Python coding. Yeah, so just give them a rough awareness of what coding is all about. On top of that, we also have a Maker Club CCA that writes upon digital fabrication and rapid prototyping, so to further enthuse the students. This was how ALP looked like last year. Basically, we really adopted M5 stack last year for our IoT module. This is actually sponsored by IMDA as part of the Code for Fun program. So this is alignment with introducing Python. And it ends with the social enterprise project. For Sec 2s last year, we still have a microbit module. And it will then roll on to Cloud AI, which is actually hosted on AWS Educate. However, that has changed since last year because we weren't able to get a preferred trainer this year, and we had to resort to using the PictoBlocks and Quarky for our Cloud AI lesson. So for our Tier 2, we basically have attendees in the ALP Learning Festival. We are waiting for the Maker Fed or the Maker Extravaganza to resume at STEM Inc. And of course, we offer to our students polytechnic workshops involving data science and cybersecurity. We are looking forward to the D-Racer Student League in June. Hopefully that runs. This is our operations. We have 8 ALP teachers this year. As compared to last year, we had a net increase of 2 teachers. So our hope is that we have a healthy pool of ALP teachers to share the load of teaching ALP, driving ALP lessons in class. All our lower sex classes are now FSBB, and there are always 2 teachers per lesson. Okay, I think the extra teacher is required to really facilitate some of the technical troubleshooting. For Cloud AI module, we do have an additional trainer headcount, and that helps as well. Okay, so the why do we want to drive Cloud AI in Montfort Secondary? Our ALP being in the emerging technologies strand, part of the directive from our school management committee would be to drive industry 4.0 awareness into our students, being if steam engines, electricity, and computers were the cornerstones of the previous 3 industrial revolutions, right? Then industry 4.0 is basically identified by elements of big data, AI, cloud computing, and automation. So with this directive from our SMC, then we had the impetus to introduce cloud AI into our ALP lesson. So this infographic was actually prepared by AWS Singapore. And it shows that more than 1 in 5 Singaporean workers will have to apply advanced digital skills, and some of these skills include cloud architecture, game software development, cybersecurity, and large-scale modeling, for example. Right. So I think one of the intended outcomes of this Cloud AI module would be to demystify AI for our young students and prepare our students as the next generation of our non-tech workforce. Okay, so to further enthuse the students, right, we basically chose very interactive elements of AI, namely NLP, natural language processing, and image recognition, so that it makes the interaction with AI more visible, I would say. Yeah. Rather than focus on the dry stuff, it's not like regression, classification, etc., etc. I kind of lost the element of reinforcement learning, because that was actually driven by Deep Racer on AWS last year, but we kind of find out from this vendor that this quirky robot doesn't really, if it were to do reinforcement learning, I couldn't push in NLP and image recognition into the same syllabus. Yeah. So why low code? Basically, with low code, we can actually abstract away a lot of the complexities of AI and machine learning. And why PictoBlocks? Basically, I didn't get my preferred trainer, so we had to use PictoBlocks. But I think in this crisis, we want to turn it into an opportunity by re-examining how engaging block-based programming is for secondary school students. So I think this is a good chance for us to gather some data from the end of module. We are now in the midst of the module midstream. I have got 3 more lessons to go before I can run the survey. So and then with that, I can actually report back whether or not block-based programming is still appropriate for secondary school kids. Yeah. And in fact, the higher readiness students can actually complete the code, even a long block-based code, in 5 minutes. So we also take this opportunity to explore alternative AI platforms as well. So been trying to find some literature research about the age appropriateness for block-based programming. There isn't that much. I would say that the literature is quite mixed in both in support and for both either strands. But I found this website where it says that the challenge lies when children begin to advance and grow out of block-based programming around the ages of 7 or 8. That would be like P2, P3, primary school, very lower primary. Yeah. Whether or not this is appropriate to our local context, right, remains to be seen. Yeah. But based on anecdotal observations in my class, the higher readiness students are really not that challenged with block-based programming. And so this is what the 8-lesson scheme of work looks like. Basically, lesson 1, we're working on translation, and for lesson 2, chatbots, face detection, object detection. For lessons 5 and 6, right, we're basically looking into the 5 stages of machine learning and incorporating the Google Teachable Machine as a means of having the students train their own AI model in image and object recognition. And that also will be a stepping stone a springboard to lesson 7 and 8, where they actually incorporate this their own train models into a car that actually recognizes direction cards in maneuvering the car around. So Google Teachable Machine was introduced in last year's run, but in this year it plays a bigger part in the sense that it actually serves the purpose of providing the trained AI internals, right, for a longer run in the AI module, in the cloud AI module. I really like this interface because login is anonymous. It's got a very intuitive user interface, right? And basically, the user experience is a very smooth one. Okay, so maybe basically just summarize what I have got so far in terms of using PictoBlocks as a means of driving AI literacy. Well, the low-code approach continues to be well received by students because it abstracts away a lot of the AI complexities. Basically, everything is just a black box to them. But that can be both a good and bad issue because then the students are not any closer to understanding the actual internals of how machine learning and AI algorithms run. So most students are enthused by the rapid implementation of their code and the predictions, the rather accurate predictions, right? But at the same time, I've got then this challenge of engaging the high ability, high readiness students. On top of that, because Stempedia is a rather small vendor as well, so I do encounter issues with buggy interfaces and unstable server. Yeah. Also, how much mileage we can get from PictoBlocks remains to be seen because it's not really an industry standard cloud AI tool, unlike AWS. And one more thing that we found out as teachers is that block-based programming, don't take it for granted that you actually can project it very well onto screens for students to follow. So the success experience, right, basically was experienced by a good part of the class because block-based programming was easy to implement, right? It's quite easy to drag in the code blocks, etc. This is a picture of one of my lower readiness students. He basically wasn't really following the lesson that well. I had to sit down with him for 5-10 minutes and he was able to catch up with the code. And yeah, and basically this shows that the AI model can actually recognize his expression as being a happy one. So with the rest of the students, they did have some time and space to actually stress test the image recognition models that they came out with, right? So this student will basically the teachers are coming in to see how many faces the AI model can actually recognize. So it turns out that I think it's only one. And some of this is an instance where server actually was unstable. So we had one lesson where the students couldn't access the AI libraries, and as a result, the lesson came to a halt. Okay, so with our students being on Chromebooks, right? Our preference, of course, would be for web-based applications that you can run off a Chrome browser tab. There was this technical necessity for the Chrome app to be installed and to be pushed down to the Chromebooks. But again, it was buggy. It didn't even allow us to create a variable, and can you imagine as a programmer, isn't that very fatal error? And with the screen projections, right, with interfaces like this, right, a lot of the screen space are actually eaten up by auxiliary frames. I mean, case in point, left side, we've got all the code blocks. On the right side, we've got the output as well. So that only leaves a small area of real estate in the middle to show the code blocks. Even if you were to project this on PowerPoint, for longer code blocks, right, you will still need to cut it up. So it's not as simple as cutting up text-based code and projecting it. So I think this is as educators, this is you understand that this is a non-trivial problem that we need to solve to make the information clear and concise to the students. I mean, if you have got colorblind students, then even more good luck to you because some of the colors with the interfaces you can see on the left side here are actually quite similar. Yeah. So one of my future plans, I think, as much as possible, we are trying to revert back to AWS for the next run. But again, I mean, with the move away from K-12 content in AWS Educate, there's another challenge we need to manage. And when coming across, when we were preparing the possibility of running ALP on HBL days, right, and having to package ALP lessons on SLS, we came across AI Singapore's revamped or updated content, and found that their content made available for AI for kids are actually quite age appropriate. Yeah, so I would recommend using AI Singapore as a stepping stone, right, for you to develop your resources. Yeah, and also I think this past week I managed to we had a discussion at the Gabrielite School level, and we were made aware about the MIT Race and AI for K-12 resources that are available in the US. Yeah, so this is actually just a screen capture of AI Singapore's website. And we found that some of the unplugged activities were actually quite interesting and engaging. And moving forward, right, these are definitely initiatives that Montfort will actually look at incorporating into our AI lessons. Yeah, I think that's all for me. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Boswell. Right. So in lieu of time, I'm sorry. We thought we always say we may overrun, but we always overrun. So any Q&A, please direct to the chat or Q&A doc. We will have one last school right before AI Singapore round up, and the school will be School of Science and Technology. Yeah, they actually have a team today. Yeah, thanks.
So, I'm Jovita from School of Science and Technology. Just let me share my screen a while. Give me a while. Okay, I'm just going to assume everyone can see my slides. Okay,
Yes.
so yeah, thanks. All right, so good afternoon. I'm Jovita from the School of Science and Technology. As you can see, these are the names of my team members. Okay, we are all here today, all because we're all very enthusiastic about AI and AI literacy, and we want to find out how we can improve this. Okay, so just want to share currently what we're doing. Okay, interesting. I was just sharing with my group mates that I think we heard a lot about how AI is being taught in a lot of schools. But I feel personally I think maybe we overshot the literacy part. So literacy, as I understand, is defined. It talks about a set of skills in a discipline that have the potential to enable expression, communication, and access knowledge. And so AI literacy, back to basics. Let's do a definition. So this definition that I got from this paper by Long and Magako in 2020. So AI literacy is a set of competencies that enables individuals to critically evaluate AI technologies, communicate and collaborate effectively with AI, use it as a tool, both at home, in the workplace. So it's not just, as we understand, I think it's also a bit more than just being able to use it, but also being able to apply it, but also being able to recognize what it is, what its users, and in particular, its strengths and pitfalls. Because I think many of my students, when they hear the term AI, they think, oh, that is the solution to everything. Any program or any problem, okay, just AI it. AI can do it better. Okay, but that might not be the case in all scenarios. In particular, it may depending on which AI you choose or which machine learning model you choose, may not be the most efficient. So these were just a few of the competencies mentioned by the paper as well. And I think we also want to beef up that not just the understanding of how AI works, but also what is AI, what it can do and cannot do, and how we need to be cautious in the way we use it. Yeah. So the objectives of our program is first and foremost to promote awareness of AI in the world around us, where it exists, how it is used, so on and so forth. Okay, our program is tailored for Sec 3 computing students. It's compulsory for all our computing O-level all level computing students. So we want them, as computing students, they need to know more than just the layman, right? So we want them to be informed of current advances. We want to equip them with deeper understanding of how modern AI is powered by data and math. Many of my computing students as well, they think that computing programming is all they need for their future, and they kind of neglect that the deeper you go into programming, the more math you need. So we also want to, in a sense, ground them on that and to encourage them, motivate them not to give up on math yet. Yeah. So we also want to educate them about the dangers of misusing technology, misusing AI, because as I mentioned, they think of AI as a solution to everything, but they may not be aware of where AI can be abused as well. Yeah, and then for those who are really interested in machine learning, they can go further with a passion project. Yeah. So why do we want to? Why is AI literacy important for us? Because the future STEM workplace, whether you're in programming, whether you're in a computing field or not, AI would definitely be used somewhere or some way or other. You may end up being working with AI software, even if you're not a programmer, in whatever job you are in, even as a doctor, even as a teacher as well, right? Yeah, so that's why we want them to understand more about what this thing is about. Okay. For those who are really interested in programming related, computing related jobs, there is growing job demand for AI analysis, AI specialists, and data specialists. So I think this is a growing field. So eventually, when they go out to the working world, they might find that there is a need for them or I mean, most of the jobs will be there. So if they have some background, it will be good. They have options. Yeah. So on local ground as well, I think Singapore is trying to beef up this AI, our competency in AI. Yeah. Okay. And when I mentioned abuse as well, I want them to be aware that certain things like this exist. Okay, that you can create deep fakes nowadays. So in a sense to be cautious of what you see out there. Yeah, what you see may not be actually real. Yeah, and how even machine learning can be biased, even though you think it's a computer, right? It cannot be. It's impartial, but the way you train it, the kind of data you feed into it, may cause it to become biased. And the danger of that is because many people, if you keep thinking that the computer is impartial, then you fall into the pitfall of believing whatever the machine spits out. Yeah, and that which may not entirely be true. Yeah, so there is such a thing called machine bias. So I'll move on to talking about how we go about delivering or trying to achieve all these objectives. Okay, so we have a curriculum that starts from spreadsheets and data management. That's the part of the O-level syllabus. So from there, we start to extend into data science, about relational databases and pivot tables, data visualizations as well. And then from there, even further into machine learning. Okay, talking about what is machine learning, what are the kinds of algorithms that are important that we use in machine learning, supervised and unsupervised. We talk about neural networks and of course the ethics part. Okay, and then the final part is if they are so interested, they may propose a project which is AI based or deep learning based. Yeah, so these are some of the things that we bring them through. We briefly let them understand about AI, how AI has progressed in the past from rule-based AI to now it's all data, learning from data. Yeah, and how so AI has progressed over the years. So deep learning and machine learning are the fundamental, the more common ways of applying AI nowadays. The most common, in fact, I think very few people, if any, still do rule-based, because rule-based is just too tiring to have an exhaustive list of all the rules required. Yeah. So these are some of the use cases we introduce to them. So things that everyday things that they may not really think about. We in a sense bring out the AI or show them that's where the hidden AI is. So spam classifiers, image recognition, your Snapchat filters, recommendation systems. This one is from Amazon, but I think they're more used to the YouTube kind or the Netflix kind. Yeah, so machine translation as well. Yeah, so yeah, so we start them off simple with just a basic data science primer. Since Excel spreadsheets is already in the O-level syllabus, we just teach them a few more functions about Excel, how to create pivot tables, how to turn your database into a relational database. We also take the chance to introduce to them about big data, because that's really why relational databases are important, right? You want to reduce redundant information in your databases, because if you have a lot of data, that redundant information is going to take up precious space, which will end up becoming costly. Yeah. Then we move into the machine learning. We focus on the supervised learning because that's really where it all starts. It's the basics. Yeah, we don't really touch the unsupervised or reinforcement at this level, especially where it is general for everybody to pick up. In terms of practicals, we don't start with Python, we start with orange data mining. So orange data mining is like Piaw says, is I mean, he talked about how it's good to start with code light, right? And that's because the coding may add an additional layer of complexity to, if students are already not familiar with Python, they'll find it even more of a challenge to learn machine learning in Python. So there are two unknowns there, right? Two things that are foreign to them. So we start with orange data mining. This is how simple the program looks like. Okay, it's really drag and drop. Whatever you need, if you want to add your data, you can just drag in a bubble. Whatever machine learning models you want to use, it's all under the models tray. So they do have quite a wide array of things you can choose from. Okay, and with that, you can train a simple model, can even do some testing and scoring, evaluating how good the model is. Yeah, so this is also, in a sense, this is our typical practical lesson. Of course, we have theory lessons where we teach the students about the algorithms first, okay, but for the practical, it's mostly self-paced. We let the students explore on their own. Reason for that is because I think some of them are more receptive, or more they may have some background already, so they understand a bit better, so they can go further if they want to. And of course, if they finish faster, we do have optional Python practicals for them also. So if they are ready to move on to doing machine learning in Python, there is an option available. Yeah, for those who are not so ready or not yet ready, self-paced is good, because whenever they have a question, they can just raise it up, or they can discuss with a friend. Yeah, so whatever is comfortable for them to learn. Yeah, so the consolidation that we do is mostly about the certain formulas, like for calculating the accuracy, calculating precision. Yeah, so things like that, just to wrap it up for them. Yeah, so this is one of the optional Python practicals that we have for the students. This one is using sklearn. We also do try to introduce the deep learning ones as well. Yeah, but yeah, that one is, I guess, only the most ready students are able to go through those, because I think because there are too many parameters, or too many things to fine tune, they may not really understand the full idea of neural networks. Yeah. Then we go into the ethics in AI. Of course, I think this is to me this is really something that if my computing students forget everything else I taught them about AI, this is the one thing I want them to remember. Yeah, because I think this may be, if students or computing students are not aware of these problems, this will become a more prevalent issue in the future, or yeah, where people start to train AI machines, machine learning programs that do not use the right kind of data sets, and therefore become biased against a certain group of people. And I think that that will be a bigger problem if, let's say, you are coding it for a company. Let's say if a bank were to use a skewed data set for training on credit, as in
credit scores.
yeah, in a sense, what am I trying to say? Yeah, to predict whether I should give this person a loan or not, right? Yeah, so things like this. So if it ends up training on the wrong thing, or it ends up picking up the wrong features, or giving more weight to the wrong features, that's going to be a big problem, right? So we do want them to understand that about AI as well. Or more, that's the most important thing to me. Yeah. So optional machine learning projects. So if they're interested, as I mentioned, if they're interested, they will think of their own use cases for machine learning, and they will try to train a program for that. So what I have here on the left is a group that try to use computer vision to read sign language. So if you see carefully, I know the picture is a bit small. So the guy, the on the screen, the person on the left side is doing a hand sign for one of the alphabets in sign language, and the computer is able to detect what letter it is. I think the right side, the picture is a bit clearer. What this group, the group on the right side, has done is to train the AI to recognize certain landmarks in Singapore, tourist landmarks, and with that, it becomes they created a virtual tour guide so in COVID times, for example, if let's say you want to have because of because of social distancing and all that, you don't want to have an actual tour guide, a physical tour guide. This is a program that they can use, tourists can use to learn more about certain landmarks in Singapore. So they actually only trained it on 2 landmarks. Small scale, because I think we all understand as a student project, it's very difficult to scale up, already difficult to achieve scale at their level. But I think you can see how useful it can be in the future. Yep. So just want to show you really quickly how the virtual tour guide works, or how they have incorporated AI to recognize the landmark, and then use a text-to-speech to do some kind of voiceover to explain or to introduce the landmarks. Let's quickly show the video. So that is what one of the groups has done. I think compared to what we actually went through in class, they've really done extensive research on how to code out and especially incorporate computer vision into their project. So what we focus on in class is mostly one of my goals was to give them a deeper understanding of how computers learn. So we do talk about the algorithms quite a bit, especially the certain algorithms that are a bit more easily visualized. Because I think if students just want to learn how to code, they can find tutorials online quite easily. But I do want them to have a deeper understanding of how the algorithm comes about, how it's not just magic that helps that causes a machine to suddenly be able to predict the right thing. Yeah. Right. So that's why I share a bit of my students' feedback with the whole program. I think many of them found them useful. The the teaching materials, what the slides that we give, in particular the practical exercises as well. I think many of them find them useful to help them understand more about machine learning, a bit more about AI. Many of them do enjoy the lessons. They do enjoy that they're learning something a bit beyond the O-level syllabus. I'm glad they also get a bigger picture of how AI has changed how we live, and how they find it applicable for future use as well. Yeah, and I think what they want. So this question is about what they would like to see more of. Okay, I think more of them want to go into Python. I mean, it's variable lah. So some of them want to explore more with Python. Some of them prefer to do more Orange because I think it's easier for them, and with the simplicity of the program, they are then able to focus on how the machine learning works. So a lot of differentiation required in my future, I suppose. Yeah. So that's all that we have. Any questions? We'll be happy to. I don't think we have time for questions, right? But yeah, any questions, you can just go ahead and put it into the chat. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks so much. Yeah. Miss Tang and the SIC team. Right. So please direct your questions either to the chat or to the doc. Right. So and last but not least, we have probably the organization or the boss that is supporting the schools most. Right. We have a lot of schools have benefited from AI Singapore's resources, and they are always doing something new. And so Boss School is going to share with us more today. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. Conscious of time, so I would speed up quite a fair bit on things. I'm very happy to hear that all the various efforts inside, and I do know a few things, for example, like Orange, which is what we are also using as well. And for example, aspects that you are also trying out with vendors and yourself, all that. Now, what I'll present to you is a whole breadth of the things that we have created and started. Some of you, like Piaw, thank you so much for already discovering it. Some of you are actively using it. So I'm Seng Meng, and I'm part of the AI innovation pillar within AI Singapore. And the areas that I helm is talent certification as well as standards program, right? So to give a breath very quickly, we are looking at grouping AI literacy and proficiency. And when you look at it, it's really divided into two areas. You have the blue portion, which is the industry-specific portions, AI for AI apprenticeship program. And then we started out like this first. And then after that, as we develop more program, AI for everyone and AI for students and AI for kids become anchor program inside. But at a breath, just look across to know that we are working with all the various entities. IMDA is also part of our management committee as well. I came from IDA, by the way, before they become IMDA. So certain programs that they run are also incorporated and integrated to ours. Right now, I have about 15 learning resources that you can tap on within the Learn AI. Piaw actually shows the Learn AI website already. You can see down there it's categorized to students, educator, everyone, and professional as well. Everything inside here, except for the red one, are free resources. So they are free. AI Singapore is not a training provider. The courses, the learning resources that we develop are actually typically is from our own AI engineer. We are engineering outfit. We are not educators, but 90% of our entire pillar are AI practitioners, engineers. We even have a couple of PhD scientists as well. So the things that we create here either stem from actual projects that we have done, and we re-encapsulate them back into learning resources so that when you guys want to introduce AI, I think one of the key things that you might want to look at is how does that translate into practical stuff. So take, for example, number seven, where all the AI use cases, they are all embedded inside. So finished projects are actually embedded inside, simple, practical, and hands-on. So it will actually help to provide some follow-up realism to the theories that you are teaching. I'll quickly skim through each one of them so that you have awareness. So AI for Everyone, that's the anchor program. Now, one specific ask, I see that all of you are creating different levels of AI literacy. And one of the things as AI Singapore and National AI Office, which is my parent body, is trying to do is we want to set a foundational baseline. All polys and ITs are using the same AI for Everyone, which we co-developed. They saw AI for Everyone, we developed a specialized version. So all the polys and ITE are using that, and they use that to add additional curriculum based on their domain specificity. MOE SLS has introduced this, but as you all can see and as you are aware, SLS is very much student-initiated one. So perhaps one of the projects that I would like building blocks also to surface up to NIE and MOE as well is to establish a baseline standard which all schools, regardless, can use the same foundational baseline and adapt it accordingly. Civil Service College is already adopting this as a foundational module as well. You all spoke about introducing AI literacy to the students. So this is a full-fledged 3 hours program. I've also created a whole series, our team, for AI literacies just in 20 minutes. And we re-recorded it, AI for Everyone, multilingual edition, which is a condensed version of the full AI for Everyone in all 4 languages. So language teachers, or for those who know mother tongue teachers, you might be able to get them to take a look at this. We created this because People Association approached us back in 2019. They wanted us to teach AI for Everyone for seniors. So we decided instead of AI for seniors, we do a multilingual edition. So it's in the YouTube channel, very easy for anybody to consume. Just go and search AI Singapore on YouTube, right? AI for I program, that's the one that is quite comprehensive, divided into 3 areas. So if you are talking about literacy, there's AI in literacy. One of you already mentioned. So we're using primarily the data cam machine learning for everybody inside. Foundations and proficiency is really, really up to the student. I saw that Phylliscia has left already, but we do work with NUS High quite a fair bit also. Foundations in AI inside there. NUS is actually recognizing this as a 5 module credit for all undergrads also. So if NUS High or any students that is enrolling in NUS, they do recognize that this is already worth 5 module credit. AI for S is one that some of you are already taking up. So I would advise that for those of you who saw this and wonder where you can get the resources, please go back to Soong and the other teachers who have been extensively using it. So it's basically DataCamp for academics, which we managed to get DataCamp to open up all the way to secondary school here. They don't do that in US, they don't do that in Canada, but we convince them to do that here, right? AI for K, for those of y'all who is in primary schools. So there was a mention already for AI for kids grade 1 to grade 4. They are all inside here, and some of the learning is not actually communicated as a formal research journal as well, right? Now, we developed AI for K grade 1 to grade 4. That was for upper primaries, right? Also aligned with Code for Fun. Last Sunday, actually, we launched an AI for K storybook that's designed for primary 1 and primary 2. No coding, no online, no lessons. It's basically just a storybook. It's a storybook that we have 10,000 printed as part of a sponsor with Meta. 40-page storybook, illustrated storybook, and it will go through a storyline format. So anyone of you who is interested, please just contact me directly. We print 10,000 copies, more of a CSR effort to distribute to low-income families. So we do have community partners to do so. But for our primary students here, who is already using the learning devices, etc., that we have already the digital copies that can be downloaded from our website or borrowed from the library. So we work with NLB for that. There was a mention just now about the physics practical. So I work with Soong and some of the other teachers back in NIE to create a community of practice. The idea for community of practice is this. AI Singapore, we do have our own engineers on Teck, and we do have our own full-fledged courses like AI for students, AI for kids, AI for everyone. But what we want to do is to start creating micro courses across both STEM and non-STEM. And one of the very first output, we are very happy that is now being listed in the RPIC 2022 conference poster that's developed with Jinglong and the other collaborators, Ben and NIE. We want you guys to be part of this collaboration because we do expect you to be able to take the resources we develop with you. We will host it on our Learn AI platform. You can then actually use that to supplement your teaching assessment. Now, I go back to this slide, and the next thing I will talk about is the new program that we're launching, supported by MOE for the next 3 years. There was the red side and there is the blue side. We developed a program so that students from the red side can also access the program in the blue side, primarily the AI for Industry Foundation in AI course, and even have a chance to work with an apprentice. So it's called the Student Outreach Program. Right now it's below the line. We'll do an official announcement in May. It's divided into 2 tracks, AI for Industry Student Certification track and the AI Internship Program track. There are 3 levels to this. As of today, we will encourage all students from secondary school onwards all the way to IT, Poly, University to be able to form student user group. As they form student user group, they can self-learn and gain access and get a certification for literacy in AI. At level 2, once they get literacy in AI, they can then step up to undertake the foundation in AI cert. Now, I'm not going to fluff. It's a 140 hours course. Even for adult, the dropout rate is 45% in terms of completion. Right? Some of our adult learners, because they are prior system engineers, so they just take it up. But to the point that 140 hours of this do get recognized by universities as module credit courses. Right? Level 3, we organize our own AI Bricks Hackathon. We're very happy to work with Building Blocks to take a look at other opportunities. What are AI Bricks? AI Bricks are actually open source AI tools that our engineers have very created. It will span across natural language processing. It will span across computer vision. So we develop an end-to-end machine learning pipeline called Peking Duck. So any one of you who want to dabble in computer vision, you can download the Peking Duck platform and just ingest the data set in. The whole MLP is already automated inside. For those of you who may be involved in the Uni Poly side, then they can switch over to the AI internship track. Now, there is a reason why we don't open up the AI internship track to JC or secondary school students, is because as we move forward, those who completed level 2 can go to level 4, and we give them resources to obtain learning resources and as well pay for their first attempt for Google Machine Learning Professional certification. This is a global certification recognized by everybody worldwide. Right? Now, the reason why Uni and Poly can apply only for the blue track is because of the paid internship. So for those who have obtained level 2 and level 4 cert, they can then apply and be interviewed for paid internship with AI Singapore, working alongside the adult AI apprentice and our own AI engineers. Right? They actually will be paid between 1,500 to 2,000, and these are sponsored by companies. So co-sponsoring companies may put in citizens' requirements for the paid internship because some companies, especially sensitive government agencies, can only hire Singapore citizens. So they are using this opportunity to look at the intern and even provide a follow-up scholarship. Right? Our target with MOE is 5,000 students per year for level 2, 500 for level 4, and 50 for level 5. These are just the details. Won't go through that because everything is already in our website. Right? So you have the red one and then you have the blue one. Right? Now, the very, very first thing is to form the student user group. Right? Now, I do expect this to happen for Polys, IT, and universities where students have free autonomy. Any 10 of them can write to us, and then we will just settle it so that they can gain access. For secondary schools, and JCs, all that, I suppose a more structured thing will happen. I suppose it will be more teachers-led. So you can write to myself and Jillian. Later, I'll provide the contact to do so. But today, if you just go and Google Student Outreach Program, you will then see the website. And you scroll below, you'll be able to see this application is open. So when you go inside here, if you are not logged in, you need to create a Learn AI account. And if you create a Learn AI account, basically the person will just need to fill up 10 names, submit, then we will take care of the back end. Right? Various ways to contact us. If you go to aisingapore.org, there's a contact us form. Just select the appropriate drop down, and then you'll reach the learn@aisingapore.org. Otherwise, Jillian and myself are here today. You can also write to us. This slide is an updated slide from what I shared with Song Chi. I'll just pass it to him post-event, and then you can take the slide and just contact us if necessary. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Pascal. Anyone has question for AI Singapore? Actually, I have a quick two. One is, so this student outreach group, must all the students be from the same school? Right? So for example, let's say for Building Blocks, right, because we have students from different schools, but if let's say 10 of them or more are interested to form this student group, can they actually also register? Right? The question is, so actually the curriculum can be quite sensitive. You mentioned that it can be up to 140 hours. So will this be at some equivalent status as a school CCA, or perhaps even more?
Depends on the school itself. We do recognize some students are already coding prodigies already. I've seen one actually in the AI for Kids boot camp as well. To answer your first question, Song Chi, basically we would probably be only entertaining SUG per school, not across school. So there are certain back-end KPIs that we are setting with MOE. They do want to be able to track the take-up properly. We are also taking the opportunity to conduct some research survey from there. Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Okay, so that's number one. Number two, taking the foundation in AI. Now, foundation in AI, let me share with you the details. Students who actually take up level 2, what they will do is when they apply to us, they will actually pay a discounted rate of 105. Adult learners actually access the foundation in AI at $224. And for those who finish the foundation in AI within 6 months, we will return the money back to them. So essentially, they learn for free. So there's an incentive mechanism inside. But it doesn't mean that those who don't complete 6 months will get the excess drop. No, it doesn't. They will still manage to reap the reward of paying for it for just 105.
Yeah. Thanks very much. Sure. Would you also kindly share more about the community feature? Because actually, beyond just this session, I think what is most important is also that we have a community of educators coming together, and I think the community feature in AI Singapore is actually a very good platform.
Sure. Song Chi, you also involved in the NIE one. We use NIE because that provide a very, very convenient and also the correct time for us to work with the teachers. Teachers who go into NIE for in-service or follow-up training, all that, you all would have the bandwidth to consider development of new curriculum. I'm always happy to see if, let's say, current service, in-service teacher, you do have plans to create your own curriculum instead of the appointing the vendor route, all that. We can do that. Song Chi, I'm actually open to say, shall we combine with the current NIE COP, or we create a separate one? There might be benefit in economy of scale by just one single entity itself, but I'm open to the various areas. Yeah.
Okay, sure. Thanks very much.
Maybe one idea I have would be this, now that I think about it, this SUG. Because this SUG for secondary and JC, all that, I seriously doubt 10 independent students will be coming to us. it might be still teachers led. Then maybe all the various SUG that is happening in secondary and JC, or that we can band them together, and all the SUG can form a community of practice also.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah. And one of the things for level 1, we will support student learning circles, the SUG, right, for organizing 2 workshops per year. Each workshop we cap at $100. Let's say if you have 10 SUG coming in as a community, right, you all can organize a super workshop. Then, I mean, there can be creative accounting on my side so that I give $1,000.
Thanks.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's think of a box for this. Yeah.
Are we seeing things to be physical or face-to-face soon, apart from online?
I'll be very happy to do face-to-face. New COVID measures has come out already, but we'll just abide with what the government is pushing up. From the adult side of things, I can share with you a lot of adult programs are all shifting back to hybrid or in-person attendance really.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks so much, AI Singapore.
Thank you.
And definitely everyone. Oh, okay. Oh yes. So Mr. Tan Jinglong is here.
Actually, hi, Ting-Ming. Actually, for the COP, there are already some in-service teachers inside. So I thought it would be a good idea to, take the opportunity to invite people into the COP.
Sure. Perhaps I can ask all the COP teachers, right, to lead in forming the SUG in your schools also. Then that will help to access more resources as well.
Okay, sure. Thanks. So I posted a link. So this is one of the probably earliest outcome that the COP has already in a way published, right? So and we actually have a session this evening, right, 17th of March, and it's conducted actually one of the person who also had a hand in shaping this, Mr. Tan, is actually conducting this, right? So if you would like to attend, yeah, you can still sign up, right? It's happening this evening, right? Mr. Tan, you want to say anything about it?
Yes, hi. I am Jinglong. Yeah. Just call me Jinglong, please. So this is actually related, but not exactly the same. It's because I'm a physics teacher. So if you click on the link, you can see a poster. The idea is, I think, driven by e-assessment, CPDD Sciences branch is trying to set up digitization of practicals, starting from JC going to secondary. So this basically, Bihun and I, which was formerly from AI Singapore, we were presenting one approach on how to digitize practicals, which we have done under the COP, which Seng-Ming mentioned. But also the CPDD folks will be presenting their approach, which is using Excel. So if you are a physics teacher, you know of physics teachers who will be interested in this, we are having a workshop later this evening. Yes. So I think teachers are always concerned about the latest CPDD thinking, and CPDD side will also be sharing the latest developments in digitization of practicals. So it's nice because physics, it is something which we don't normally associate with AI, right? Typically you associate AI with computing, but actually in practicals, when we plot the best fit line, when we do data tabulation and propagation processing, there are many avenues which we can organically introduce predispositions of AI literacy rather than formal concepts. So that's our thinking of it. Yeah. So if you are interested, drop by this evening. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much. Right. So sorry everyone that we have a COC overrun. Right. So thanks to all the presenters who have sacrificed their school holiday, and most of them are actually school teachers. Right. And also thanks everyone for taking your lunchtime, right, to listen to this series. I mean, I call it series because we have not actually reached out to more schools, right? And when we just asked a few, all of them actually responded positively, right? So we're quite sure that there will be actually many of these AI literacy efforts from schools, and this is actually what we want to see happening. right, schools taking their initiative, right, to show what some of these programs are suitable for the students, even if these are sometimes exploratory, right? Because we are all pretty new to this, and with the support from AI Singapore, the industry, and MOE, right? We hope for many of these pioneers, right, to and we will let you know for when we have more schools, like, who are willing to share their initiatives, right? So I won't take up too much of the time. I will taken to over shortly, right? So we will send the recording when it's ready, and please also remember that we have a Q&A document, right? And that will be kept live. We will also post some of the resources there, right? Yeah, thanks so much, and have a nice day and a week ahead. Yeah. Okay, bye bye.